Okay. All right. We are recording. Good morning, Carolyn.
Oh, good morning, Shayna. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We got a little bit of moisture, so I'm a happy camper. I wish there was 10 feet of snow right now, but that's okay.
Well, feet. That's a lot of snow.
I know, but there's just something magical about walking around in that much snow, in my opinion.
There is, I suppose. It's better than the little bit and a lot of cold.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
I would take the snow over cold, but usually
Mhm.
they kind of need each other to go together.
Well, I guess it depends where you live because when it's 32 degrees in some places, it's snowing and that's sandals and shorts weather. Otherwise, it's usually -30. So I lived in a
All
place
about
like that.
perspective. Yes.
Exactly. It's all relative.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So today we're going to kind of go through a little step by step of what it is to be a patient of a naturopath and how would I even go about finding you and what would I expect when I make that phone call and say, Dr. Keller, I would like to talk with you. I've got some stuff going on. So, how
Yeah.
does that process work?
So a lot of times people will, like I just had a gal over here find me locally searching on the internet, but she first went because she's familiar with naturopathic doctors to our national association, the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. In the state of Colorado, I'm not allowed to call myself a physician, so I'm a naturopathic doctor. So
Okay.
that's one place, the AANP. Another place is this various state associations, which you can find through the AANP's website, which uh, naturopathic.org, I believe, is what it is.
Okay.
But the Colorado Association, so COAND, Colorado Association of Naturopathic Doctors, is another good place to go and try and find. I'm not listed on either of those places yet, so soon I will be.
Mhm.
So finding me online, and like this is really where some like nerdy tech stuff gets into play. So you pop up when they search for naturopathic doctor in Delta County. I want to make sure that my searching ability comes up in Google.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had some help from my husband to make sure that that was doable because that's not my strong suit. I can help people get well much easier than
Mhm.
finagling technology.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, my phone, you call me as the doctor and I answer the phone. I oftentimes will not answer it and let it go to voicemail just for screening the calls.
Mhm.
But this gal, she called me and she was like, man, I've got some kidney issues going on. I've tried all these conventional things and they basically just, said, this is just how it is now.
Sure.
And she says, no, there must be something more. And I said, well, I'm glad you called. We naturopathic doctors have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Um, and we spend a lot of time getting to know the individual. And we ask questions that might not seem like they matter, such as, were you breastfed? Was it a C-section? Did your mom have any difficulties, or did the birthing parent have any difficulties with conception, with delivery, et cetera, et cetera? Because if, for example, you had a traumatic birth and maybe the cord
Mhm.
was wrapped around your neck, maybe that's a contributory issue that you're having with like the neurological condition that you're presenting with or whatever.
Mhm.
So we really dig deep into some of these bigger questions that are oftentimes just bloop, not considered not important
Right. Or even addressed.
or even addressed. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
the
So who searches for a naturopath?
ooh, this is a good one. So this is a good time to talk about a couple misconceptions that naturopathic doctors are only for hippies. I do not identify personally as a hippie, so thank you very much. Oftentimes, the people that find naturopathic doctors are those that have tried everything conventionally. The conventional doctors basically told you, like, sorry, we don't have anything else we can do for you. I have a patient like that. She's got a really rare autoimmune condition, and she just texted me this morning and she's like, why did no one ever suggest that maybe what I was eating was contributing? We just talked about diet modification, but the only thing she's done up until this point is adding more vegetables into her diet, and she feels significantly better. And it's just like that's just like 101 basic,
Mhm.
nothing too crazy. And so I'm not
Right.
trying to like bolster my ego here, but it's just like fascinating that something so simple sometimes when things are so complex. Oftentimes, my friends and I joke, it's like, it's back to the basics. What are the
Right.
foundations for health going on with this person? And so I oftentimes will start there, especially with the complicated patients, because it's just like, I have no idea. I've never heard of this condition. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what half these labs are, because I'm not a specialist in the way that I only see one condition. I'm a specialist as a naturopathic doctor. And so my
Right.
special perspective is like, how can we support the body, the mind, the spirit,
Mhm.
as holistically as possible?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, I find that too. You think, well, that would be the, natural path would be to start in a natural way as
Right.
opposed to go to a functional. And I know I don't work with um disease names.
Mhm.
It's part of a body system that is being affected. And so, there's contributing factors here and there, um, that we have found, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, through pathology.
Mhm.
Um, and when the what this is the end result. This person passed, and these things were going on. Did this have anything to do with this?
Right.
Um, and then backtracking, but it makes so much sense to start
Mhm.
at the foundations, at the root causes. Um, and where, because once upon a time, that was how functional medicine was working, was food, nutrition, mobility, mental state. Those were the beginning pieces. Um, did you guys study, like, when did we start branching off into what we now call healthcare or medicine?
Oh, we sure did. And
Oh, did you?
I was thinking about this morning when I was just like allowing myself to just think whatever I wanted to. And like, what you and I do, Carolyn, is we support people to get back to health versus the conventional system generally as a whole, with the exception of maybe a few shining stars, that it's sick care. We are managing dis-ease. We are
Sickness.
keeping you
Mhm.
medicated. Those medications oftentimes have complications and side effects that lead to more pathology, increased pathology, because we are suppressing the symptoms. There is a time and a place to suppress. My understanding is when the Flexner report came out in the early 1900s, God, there's just like, when the Flexner report came out in the early 1900s, if I'm remembering, it was Carnegie and Rockefeller who were proponents of this and pushed it forward. And actually, medical doctors, MDs at that time, were going to schools that were maybe 6 months, and you did a lot of mentorship and what's the word I'm looking for, where you kind of like shadow somebody and you learn that
Like
way.
intern. Mhm.
Yeah. So through mentorship and like the scary barbers, like doing surgery, like that was definitely what MDs were 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And so homeopathic schools were actually 4-year medical schools. You were required to go to college and then go to a medical school. That was 4 years. So the bar was higher for those that were attending homeopathic school. And there is actually still a medical school on the East Coast. I want to say in Pennsylvania, Samuel Hahnemann Medical School is named after the homeopath that discovered homeopathy. He
Wow.
was a medical doctor that discovered homeopathy. And brought it forth into the world. And he's very well known in my alternative medicine community
Mhm.
as the father of homeopathy from the 1700s. It's fascinating that
Right.
this is all like brought forth, and then it just came down because the difference between uh, you know alternative complementary medicine is we bring people back to health. We
Mhm.
don't just manage disease and illness. We actually get people well enough
Mhm.
that they can live their life purpose, and it keeps them out of the sick care system. And so
Right.
there is some like conspiracy that they wanted to kick out homeopaths and alternative medical practitioners because we were not feeding into the pharmacology, the Sickcare system. We are empowering. We're doing the opposite, towards wellness,
Right.
away from wellness. Where do you
Right.
want to go? I know I
We're
wanted to go towards wellness.
yeah, we're disrupting the system and the whole,
Exactly.
as soon as we started applying insurance and coverage into the whole works, it just got so discombobulated. I I don't know that there's any coming back from that model unless we collectively bring it up and start to really help people get back to health, like you said. So let's say that I haven't been to a um, Western medicine facility,
Mhm.
and I'm just not feeling as great as I did a couple years ago. And
Mhm.
so I call you up and we have an appointment. So what does that first appointment look like?
That first appointment is 90 minutes, face to face or virtually, depending on patient preference at this time, because of being safe
Sure.
and
Hmm.
respectful of people's needs. So
Hmm.
90 minutes. I have my patients and clients fill out extensive paperwork. So I prepare ahead of time, okay, these are the systems that they are saying. So like maybe they've got some like headaches, they wake up with brain fog, they don't feel refreshed when they wake up, and they've got like feet pain on both of their feet, like their feet hurt.
Hmm.
Okay. So those are like their main complaints, and I have them pick their 3 top complaints. I don't know about you, but the last time I went to a doctor, I went in for a sore throat and a conventional doc, and I also had a headache because I had a fever. And I was like, man, I got this headache. He's like, you're going to have to schedule another appointment for that.
Yep. Yeah.
I look at the body holistically. So that foot pain you're having and those headaches and brain fog, I take that into consideration, and that may be from a similar cause. You might be
Hmm.
having foot pain because your superficial back line of fascia that runs from your forehead all the way down your back to your toes is
Hmm.
tight because you're slumped over like this and you're pulling and straining. Or, you know, it could be because you've had 5 pregnancies and your body is like did all these amazing changes and transformations so you could create these children, and you just are lacking some muscle strength, and that's creating a headache. Or maybe you spend 16 hours a day on the computer and you need some blue blocking glasses. I totally thought
Hmm.
that was a fad, and it is definitely a thing. Like they work.
Definitely a thing. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Absolutely. I have blue light filters on everything possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for 90 minutes, um, do you request your patients to bring lab work or anything with them, or is this initial um, appointment just to get to know and kind of a background
Um,
personally?
it is getting to know and a background, and also if they do have labs. So far, most of my patients I've had have had extensive labs. Like that autoimmune patient I have,
Hmm.
she had quite extensive lab work done, and they didn't even do some basic things like um, a CBC, which is a complete blood count, and
We'll
a
just
complete
skip
metabolic
over that.
panel. They like went to all the specialized testing because for whatever reason it's just fascinating to me. Like I want to make sure her lipids look good.
Hmm.
Those It's not my first place I jump to because I think labs they're helpful, but I want to make sure I'm establishing rapport with the person in front of me first before I like just look at them and calculate their number. That's more of what a functional medicine doctor says. Oh, your magnesium is a little low. Oh, your calcium. Oh, this. Yes, I look at them through my critique of a naturopathic perspective. And I also look at the person sitting in front of me. Like, that person that called me a couple weeks ago, she has 3 young kids. I don't want to do anything complicated. She's a mom to 3 young girls. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Hmm.
So I was like, you know what? Let's start here with some very basic things, and let's get something for the pain. So let's take care of that. And like, here's a step thing to do. Like, if this isn't working and this isn't working, then go ahead and take that ibuprofen. Create a plan so it alleviates anxiety. And so
Sure.
basically, take care of the burning house first. And if you do have
Hmm.
lab work, I'm happy to assess that as well. Because a lot of people want
Sure.
another perspective because their MD would be like, yeah, it looks good. By the way, they didn't tell you you're pre-diabetic. And that's very clear on your labs because they don't care
Right.
that you're pre-diabetic because they can't treat you until you're diabetic.
Exactly.
My job is to keep you
Exactly.
from getting
Mhm.
diabetic. My job is to keep you from having a stroke. We're going to prevent those things. That's always my
Mhm.
goal.
Yeah. I find that a lot with my work, and I think next week we can look at some of the things that I do, but one of those just small little snippets is, you know, blood sugar um imbalances or blood sugar issues. They don't have to go straight into the diabetic or even the pre-diabetic mode. There are so many contributing factors that there can be a lot of blood sugar things going on that do not put you into that category. Um, but you might get there eventually if you don't take care of, a lot of these other
Exactly.
things. And
Exactly.
I love that. I love that how we start at the root. And, now we've been presented with a problem, and now we look back and find the cause of that problem
Mhm.
and help lifestyle changes. What would be some of your recommendations? I love that you've taken into account your patients' family home situations. I love doing that too, and in fact, I do a lot more whole family work
Mhm.
rather than just a one-on-one. It's a full family unit, but
Yeah, I
um,
mean, that's helpful too because like you shift someone's diet and then husband doesn't really like to eat anything except for one vegetable. Like I hear this often and it's oftentimes husband, not wife, but the husband, he's like, "Yeah, but I only like my carrots. I like my carrots." Okay, great. That's a good place to start. So
yes.
how can we like I'm thinking of, oh, what's Seinfeld's wife's name? She created a cookbook actually, like how to trick picky eating kids into eating other vegetables.
Oh,
So one
that's
of her
funny.
tricks is like to blend cauliflower in with the mashed potatoes because it's similar texture and gets them to eat something else, for example. Anyway,
And they'll never know.
yeah, so my favorite foundation, we've talked about this, is sleep. But I go through and find the weakest link basically, and that's where I start first. So sleep, breath. I'm wanting to bring out more with my patients because I'm finding that when we are not breathing properly, holding our breath, it creates unnecessary tension in our body and
Mhm,
that we move that way in the world. We move that way in our relationship with ourselves, with
mhm,
others. And you saw me just take that breath, and you can tell the intonation of my voice changed. It's
mhm.
like I don't want to show up as just like this like tense person that's speaking like this. It's like bring it down,
Right.
relax. It's okay. I'm safe. I don't need to like go above and beyond to establish my authority like that. Just be myself.
Mhm,
That's enough.
mhm.
Hydration and hydration with electrolytes. Most people are drinking a ton of, okay, that's not true. Back up. Most people are not drinking enough water. 1 cup to 3 cups a day is not enough, my friend. You got that wilty plant in your house. That is what your cells look like in your body too. But the other
Mhm.
component to consider is electrolytes. And I'm not talking about the glucose containing sports drinks. I'm talking about magnesium, potassium, calcium, chloride, sodium. We need
Mhm.
those to function. Muscle contractions, nervous system, digestion, like you name it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and okay, what else? Hydration, movement. Movement, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that have pain and suffering around exercise and, body dysmorphia and I'm not good enough and I can't do that and blah blah blah. I have this old injury and so I'm like going to hold my arm in this weird way and, that's all contributory to demise in my
Right.
opinion, in my
Sure.
experience. Movement
Mhm.
is life. If we are not moving our body, I have people
Mhm.
that look at me and they're like, "How are you squatting right now?" I'm like, I've squatted down since I was a kid. I love sitting in that position and working that way. I love laying on my belly and like writing. And there's ways
Mm.
and tricks that we can do to help increase the flexibility. And I mentioned the superficial back line. That's one that is oftentimes needing to be strengthened because our
Yes.
superficial front line is tight because we're crunched over in fetal
Mhm.
position, and that's
Mhm.
great. It's good to bring awareness to those things, and there's things we can do about that to gradually shift. And then my last one is consumption, and not consumption as in the disease state like you get from pneumonia, as in what you're eating, how you're
Mhm.
eating, what are you watching, what are you
What are you
listening
bringing
to,
in?
what are you
Mhm.
reading, what community are you spending time with, what are your relationships like with yourself and
Yeah.
others. Like, this is all part of what you're consuming and taking in and processing into your psyche. And even if you aren't consciously aware of it, your subconscious knows that you just watched that really scary show by Stephen King, and your nervous system is jacked up and prepared for, like, oh my God, what was that little creak?
Mhm.
Oh my God, I think there might be like a mass murder outside. I stopped watching the criminal shows and I love them. And like,
Oh.
I honestly had to grieve for, like, I loved that, but I was also addicted to that feeling of feeling scared and terrified. And I
Mm.
don't, I, I'm an eternal optimist. I use this to describe myself. And I have to say, like, I don't walk through the world thinking that someone is going to kill me. And perhaps there's a little bit of white privilege there that I need to, just be aware of. And I used to walk around every corner that every person was going to get me and kill me and hurt me and had some negative connotation. I changed what I was engaging with, and my nervous system responded. We are self regulating
Sure.
beings. Are you being
Absolutely.
programmed by the news,
Mhm.
or are you
Mhm.
programming yourself and managing what you're intaking? Right.
Absolutely. And I love asking my clients, okay, you have your answers or your diagnosis or whatever from your MD. What do you think is going on? You are
Mhm.
the best. You are the owner of your body. You are the best judger of, I wasn't like this 2 weeks ago. Okay, so now let's go back through what has happened in the last couple weeks.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times there's so many things that, just like you said, your subconscious picks up on that we're not aware of, and our body will adjust because our body is so smart that it's constantly scanning for intruders, invaders, and ways to fix and ways to adjust. um, I'll get to start working at the mall here in town on Wednesdays. They're having wellness Wednesdays, and even doing functional um, exercises of walking, that there is
Mhm.
actual proper way to walk. And how many times, um, if you've rolled an ankle or whatever, and you're not aware of it, but your body has compensated in one way or another to take that pain off. Well, if unless you're walking past a mirror and checking your gait and everything all the way, you're not going to notice that. But now that's going to start leading to strain over onto a knee and onto a hip and up your back. And so it worked its way out because it's trying to keep stable. And I just love being able to work with people that way so that they can be like, oh, look, if I just adjust this little bit, if I quit crossing my legs and I put my feet on the floor, and oh, look, suddenly my neck isn't tight and my headache has gone away.
Exactly.
Oh, you know, those things you're not going to get at your appointment that you made 6 months ago. Um,
Seriously.
that you've sat in the waiting room for 30, 40 minutes with all of the everything that's out there. And then the nurse comes in and does all of this stuff. And then this person that you've waited for 6 months for came in for 5 minutes and didn't even look up from their iPad or their, whatever that they're doing. And then, but they gave you a piece of paper and this is going to take care of it later.
Mhm.
So that's something that you won't find in your office.
No,
And
and
I
I
love that.
actually had a doc that, when I was at my sickest and I was like starting to do the research myself and like figure out what's going on, because I'm obviously not getting better taking these 3 different medications and having to go to the emergency room periodically. Something is still wrong. And I remember being completely dismissed, and being handed a WebMD handout, a doctor that I had waited for weeks, and this is what he gave me. I was
Mm.
like, Okay. Duly noted. Like I could have gone and printed this thing off myself about GERD
Right.
from
Right.
WebMD, which by the way, it already looked at that. And I was like, I'm doing all these things already because you already told me to do these things. I'm not going to try this next medication that you told me to take as a trial and come back in 3 weeks. If it
Mhm.
does work or doesn't work, or if there's side effects, like, no, like we will be in
Mhm.
close communication. And that's the other thing is like you get to work with me in close communication,
Right.
a doctor that has clinical thinking and understanding and can see like the bigger perspective. And Carolyn, I love, kind of going back and tangenting on like the gait. I see all the time at my part-time job, people overpronating, which is walking on your
Oh.
arch. And you can
Mhm.
tell like their shoes are like this tall and they're like walking on the inside and like it's putting strain on their knee, not to mention their groin
Mm.
and what that's affecting in their organs and like their shoulder. And like,
Right.
I'm like, man, my feet hurt just looking at you
Hurt watching.
walking like that. Like, oh my
Right.
gosh. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's fascinating. And sometimes you just need an objective person to come in and say, hey, like, I'm noticing you're slouching or I'm noticing you're crossing your legs. Maybe you didn't even notice that. Um,
Mhm.
I'm noticing your
So
thyroid is bulging in your throat.
is
Like, like these things that seem
minor
innocuous,
detail.
but
Right.
actually are really important. And I really,
Absolutely.
and I don't know if you do this with your clients, Carolyn, but I feel like reflecting empathy and compassion is something that I believe is very important because I've personally experienced and I've heard stories from friends of mine about like not being included in decision making, especially around children,
Mhm.
and not feeling like they are intelligent enough to have a conversation with the doctor because the doctor talks up here and doesn't
Mhm.
talk in a language that, and it's not like you're dumb, it's just like they spent all these years in school and they have all this like these words, like you got to meet
Mhm.
people with language that they understand so they know what the heck you're talking about. You can't just drop a bomb like you got MS and expect someone, not everybody knows what MS is, right?
Right. Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. So I've had my first appointment with you. And so how does your follow-up schedule look? I'm sure it's all very dependent on the person and, what's going on. But do you do that then, in a couple weeks or by phone call first? What is your process?
Definitely person dependent. It seems to be about the 2 to 3 week mark. People need a follow up. They need a check in. Okay, I'm really struggling with the removing the food intolerance that you suggested. I've added these veggies in. Like, can we just do a little troubleshooting of like, can I ask some questions and how do I do this? And um, some people need a little more of that support and mentorship. So it's a weekly thing, and my follow ups are an hour. Now, if you got a sore throat, I don't want to see you for an hour, even regardless of COVID.
Right.
I have a 15-minute acute appointment so we can get that completely squared away. You got a sore throat, maybe we'll do a swab for strep and mono or COVID, since,
Mhm.
COVID life, whatever,
Right.
and send that off and see what it is. Or we might just treat presumptively. It's probably just a viral infection. Whoosh, here's some antiviral herbs, stay home, do the quarantine. And here's, don't, fast a fever. Exactly.
Starve a cold, but yeah.
Or, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I get this asked a lot regarding prescriptions and what you either personally choose to do or what your profession can and then chooses to do if somebody is asking for a script for something.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the state of Colorado, regardless of my education, I am not able to prescribe anything at this time except for vaccines, which I will not be carrying in my office just because there's a lot of administrative. You got to have a refrigerator and like all these there's just like nuanced admin stuff that I'm not seeing enough kiddos to worry about that.
Mhm.
And so I would really love to be able to prescribe thyroid medication, for example. I think that that would be incredibly helpful, or antibiotics as needed. I do think that antibiotics are overprescribed, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's an appropriate tool to use periodically.
Right.
So nationwide, depends on the state. So like Washington, Oregon, Montana, Arizona have the broadest prescriptive authority, meaning we can even prescribe schedule substances like opiates,
Oh, wow.
benzos, testosterone, codeine, etc. So depending on who you go and see, you might get a prescription for something. And, you know, we were talking before the recording, Carolyn, like it's a tool to use when the time is right. Sometimes you need a higher force intervention, like a prescription antifungal. In my experience, toenail fungus is a pain and a half to deal with. And oftentimes you need antifungal, both topically and internally, to really like kick it in the butt. There are other things we can do naturally, but like, you know, the example my pharmacology teacher said is like, if you've got a lady that wants to have pretty toenails for her daughter's wedding, you know, the risk versus benefit, like she wants to look pretty, and that's really important to a person's self-esteem and mental, like, you know, image of themselves. So I think the prescription is the better option. Unfortunately, I'm not able to help wean people off medications, even if I think it's necessary. So what I do is I open up a line of communication with the prescribing practitioner and say, hey, we have a mutual patient. I'd love to chat with you. I feel like they have their foundations on board and they're actually over medicated now. So, you know, say it's high blood pressure medication and they're having low blood pressure moments. That's scary and very dangerous. And so I'm pretty sure the cardiologist would be on board with me doing that. It's just a matter of being diplomatic and you know, not stepping on anybody's toes and working together as a team, because as a naturopathic doctor, I work together. We work together, you know?
Absolutely, a professional courtesy. And I love that you take that step to work with whoever your patients have already seen. Because one thing you don't want to do, I know that I found, is you don't want to discredit and wrong whatever practices that have already been going on. Because when you put doubt into somebody's mind, that hurts you as well as anything else that may come along, that could be very beneficial. And you want to put everything in the best light possible. You know, nobody is perfect. And nobody's going to respond to the same treatment the same way as another individual. And that's one of the reasons that I love our work, is because everything is so personal and individually created. But so if I were to, so I have this program or a series of appointments, what have you, scheduled. Do I pay you cash? Do I run you through insurance? How do I pay you?
State dependent on whether a naturopathic doctor is covered by insurance,
Oh,
and
really?
also individual choice. So in the state of Colorado, I can't take insurance, which is great because I don't want to take insurance
I
because
don't want to get involved with insurance.
it's a lot of administrative work on my end. And you're having a third party now who does not have a medical education tell me how to care for my patients so they can get well. And I actually find insurance companies are inhibitory at getting people well. Most insurances, it's in their policy that they support remediative healthcare, which means once you're already diagnosed with XYZ condition, then we're happy to treat you, but we don't want to prevent you or help to reverse, you know, high cholesterol, help to reverse cardiovascular disease, help to reverse diabetes. They don't, that's not the name of their game, because they lose income. There
Right.
are some insurance companies that are cropping up that the more patients and clients that you have that are well, the bigger like dividends that the practitioners get. I haven't aligned myself. So right now I'm taking cash, check, and credit card.
I
And
love how preventative care, you can have 2 of those a year to make sure we're preventing sickness. But by golly, if you're not well and you have some diagnosis, you can go to the doctor all the time.
isn't that fascinating?
That makes no sense.
It doesn't, but it does if you're in a system that is for sick care, not for health care.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, you know, one of these days we're going to have to put a slide up that has your contact information. But if there's anybody listening, did you make one? Yay.
No, I need to put it on my to-do list.
Oh, that's funny. How would we contact you? We can put it in our when we put this up on YouTube, we can put that up there
Yeah,
too. But
so best to contact me through my website, West Elks, ELA, West
there's
Elks,
not an A in there.
ELKS, no A, wellness. So West Elks Wellness at Gmail.
Mhm.
That's my email, but my website's also westelkswellness.com, and you can schedule a free 15-minute consult to just kind of see, like, is a naturopathic doctor someone that I want to work with? And I'm happy to have a conversation with you and see if we're a good match, and go
That's
from there.
outstanding.
Hmm.
West Elks
Wellness.
Wellness.
Hmm.
West Elks Wellness. Okay, good.
Hmm.
See, I don't even think I knew about the wellness part on there. West Elks Wellness. Okay, good. All right, well, awesome. I am so excited that we have these conversations going every week.
Hmm.
Um, just little banter back and forth. I know I learn so much from you every time. So um, next week, I'll give a little overview of what I do,
Yeah.
and we can kind of go through a health evaluation too, and
Cool.
just see how the different methods of root cause diagnostics and everything works.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, Carolyn. Yeah, I really
Awesome.
enjoy these talks as well, and
Yeah.
getting to know you and work as a team together. Okay, bye bye.
Awesome. Okay. Bye bye.